Welcome to another episode of NAC Car Culture, your home of tough muscle cars, classic cruisers and high-performance imports. Proudly brought to you by NAC Insurance, specialists in modified and high-performance cars, Mount Shop, undercar specialists, and Teng Tools. Get organised. Coming up in this week's show, Raj Patel's blown big block Falcon, another tough street machine from the Wanganui Road Rodders Club.
I took fancy to the shape, you know, the XW, XY shape. Always wanted them, always loved them, always had a passion for them.
And behind the mind that creates these, we gatecrash David Jeffrey's Rat Rod Workshop in Rolleston.
I like rat rods because there's no boundaries. For such a hot rod, it's got to have the certain tail lights, certain lights, that sort of stuff, where a rat rod, that's what you want to build.
But to kick things off on NAC Car Culture, we're headed for Foreign Rotors Jamboree from Manfield Raceway in Fielding. The massive Jamboree makes full use of Manfield's resources, from show and shine to circle work, super lap to sideways laps. 2016's lineup also gave showgoers the chance to get up close with a couple of Aussie's finest and unveil a duo of wide-bodied Porsches, the fruit of global phenomenon RWB's first New Zealand builds. If you had a confused look on your face, then you probably just walked past Quinton's Legnum Ute on the way in. The Phantom body shape taking out gongs for both innovation and engineering with its better-than-factory finish.
I don't like Fords, I don't like Holdens, but Ute is life. You know, got to have a Ute, and wanted something that was basically on a car chassis, so handled very well, track ready and road comfortable, and I didn't think of a better idea than using a Legnum station wagon as the base model. Love my wagons, been dealing in Mitsubishi Legnums for 13, 14 years. The first thing, I suppose, that everyone misses out when they think, oh, well, let's make a Ute, you know, they just sit it on the ground on the wheels and they start chopping the roof off, not realising that, you know, 35% of the strength of the car's in the roof. The moment they cut the roof off, it's bananaed. So the first thing first was bolted to a jig, and there it stayed for 2 years until we put all the structural supports and things like that in place and welded in the BNC pillars and rear bulkhead.
And being a one-off doesn't excuse the VR4 from Ute-type duties.
Every single day she gets used, so she's pretty much full of bugs all the time, and beach sand. We jet ski a lot out of Foxton Beach, so you know, instead of launching at the boat ramp, she's four-wheel drive, she clears height good enough, so yeah, she just takes the jet skis on the beach, loads them in the salt water back out, give her a wash on the farm, and yeah, it's good to go again.
Less concerned with being a practical workhorse and rewarded accordingly with Best Overall Mini Truck was Jared's Toyota Hilux.
I've had it for about 3 years now. It's a 93 Toyota Hilux. It's originally from Napier. I bought it off a guy from Napier, so yeah. Always into rotors. I never had one, and then I seen this truck come up and I was always fully loved this truck, so I thought, yeah, why not? Twice the package, get a rotor plus airbags, so yeah, that was fully me. It's always good to get out and about. Like, I recently went to the Foreign Rotors in Auckland. There was hardly any mini trucks there, and it's good to see a good turnout here today.
And plenty of others were out there putting the RX in Foreign Rotor, including NAC Car Culture Season 1 stars Tim and his immaculate RX2. The sedan's still doing everything Tim's heavy right foot asks of it. Another show-quality rotor getting put through its paces was Lance's RX7.
I took one of them for a test drive when I was a young fella and decided that I was going to get me one day, and yeah, got my licence pretty much and brought it, and it's a Bog Dog standard Series 4, and it's grown to what it is today, yeah, 18 years later. 88 FC3 SRX7 Series 4, Seating B Mileport Turbo with Steve Murch built whole set turbocharger on it. All your usual bolt-on mods with your fuel system and wastegate and all the drama. It's making 313 kilowatts at 14 pounds, so it's not too bad a power, but I want to, by the end of this year, have it up around the 400 kilowatt at the rear wheels situation, which is going to require a new gearbox and stuff like that, so it's just really as funds permit.
And as we so often hear in this game, it really wasn't supposed to get this far out of hand.
Definitely not. It was just a car that I wanted to have as my everyday drive car, and I thought I'd filter and exhaust, but it didn't stop at a filter and exhaust, and yeah, nah, fair few tens of thousands of dollars have gone into it. Yeah, it'll be finished one day.
One of the Jamboree's big talking points was the public unveiling of the freshly completed 964 Porsche Duo dubbed RWB1 and 2. The number's a sign of things to come and the result of RWB's famed Porsche builder Akira Nikai's recent working holiday in New Zealand. And although these two may look pretty similar at a glance, in reality they're two very different cars. Anthony went for a performance route with a more subtle kit, if you can ever call this subtle, and a street motor built to RS Cup spec. Nan opted for the wilder and wider kit, while the rebuilt stock motor and airbag install points the 964 firmly in the direction of a street cruiser. Special guests on New Zealand soil were in the form of a couple of Aussie invaders, including John's jaw-dropping RX3, an elite-level build that's taken on the traditional Australian powerhouses of Holden and Ford and beaten them at their own game, claiming the titles of both Summernats Grand Champion and MotorX Grand Master. These two awards are as good as it gets in the world of Australian show cars.
Yeah, no, this is the second show we've had in New Zealand, so yeah, it's been the second time as I brought us over here, so yeah, I was lucky that I'm on holidays with my car. It's a Mazda RX-3. It's highly modified from pretty much front to back. It's tubbed, it's got a 4-link, A-arm front suspension, 13B turbo, it's got a C4 in it, it's got a top fuel modular diff in it. Pretty much from front to back, everything on the car's been either modified, custom made. This is a complete custom car. The whole interior inside the car's all been handmade. The whole build started around the wheels. So we knew we wanted that size wheels and we wanted the car to fit the wheels. So that's how it started, and slowly it became what it is today. Originally it was supposed to be just like a tough street car. And then as soon as we made the transition that it was going to become elite, then that's it, was no holding back. We knew everything had to be like 100%, like down to every single bolt underneath the car has a billet cap machined, and you can't even see the bolts. So every little detail counts.
A build requiring this much attention to detail? Obsessive doesn't even begin to describe it.
I'll tell you what, it's obsessed. You get anxiety over it. It's pretty much everything. So it consumed my life for a very long time.
And from the man who holds Australia's highest honours, how does New Zealand stack up?
Awesome. Like honestly, like the way you guys build cars over is a lot different to us, but in your own style, it's awesome. It actually takes me back to like when I had my first RX3, like with just the 13B with the bridges, like just simple. Where us guys now, I think we're getting to the point where we're trying to think outside the box, and the things that we're doing it's actually becoming a little bit crazy.
But like his New Zealand counterparts, John isn't afraid to put the RX to work.
Well, I've unveiled the car probably about 2 years ago, and after I unveiled it, took it to Summernats, and between Summernats and when I won MotorX, I've been driving the car. The car's probably got maybe 600-700 Ks on it, so I've done a bit of driving in it, and hopefully we'll do a bit more driving tomorrow.
Stick around, we've got Raj's big block, big power and big smoke XW Falcon, and a couple of beach hop topping rats still to come on NAC Car Culture. But before we go to the break, it's time to drop in at Auckland's Magnum Automotive for this week's NAC Tech Tip.
Today we're going to check the engine's cranking compression. It's a quick, easy way to check the engine's health. Before doing a compression test, it's a good idea to check the condition of the battery and the starting system to make sure they're up to the test. First thing we'll have to do is take the spark plugs out of the engine, then disconnect the ignition system so that it won't spark while we're carrying the test out. We then screw the tester into the spark plug hole of the cylinder that we're going to test, depress the throttle fully and wind the engine over 4 or 5 times to get a good reading on the gauge. You repeat this process for all cylinders and record the data. When looking at the data, you're not wanting to see big differences between cylinders. 10% probably a pretty reasonable sort of number, but normally if there's a problem with the engine, it's much greater than that. If there is a low cylinder, an old trick is to stick a little bit of engine oil in the cylinder, wind it over. If the compression stays the same, it's normally an indication that you've got a valve or a gasket problem. If the compression raises up to the normal level, normally means you've got a ring problem. To really get to the bottom of a low compression issue, the next step really is to do a cylinder leakage test. To do this, you remove the rocker gear from the cylinder that you're going to test. You then screw an air line into that cylinder and connect a cylinder leakage tester to that cylinder. With a cylinder leakage test, if you've got a big leak, there's telltale signs. You can listen out the exhaust, you can listen out through the intake, and you can listen out through the valley of the engine. All those three things will tell you whether it's an inlet valve, exhaust valve, or ring problem. If air's coming out the cylinder next to it, you've got a head gasket problem.
You're back with NAC Car Culture, kindly brought to you by the good people at NAC Insurance, Teng Tools and Mount Shop. Thanks to the good people at Teng Tools, it's time now to head for Rolleston to gate crash the shed of David Jeffrey, the man behind some of New Zealand's most creative cars.
Just out south side of Christchurch, just out Rolleston way. Basically just my little 10-acre block out here. Lucky enough the neighbours are far enough away that they don't get annoyed too much with the grinding and the welding. And I've always been into cars as such. My first sort of hot rod was a V8 Wolseley, believe it or not. That's going back many decades ago. But I had a tree topping business and I was going around trimming trees all the time and coming across car parts and forever running them over. I thought, well, at one point I thought I could build a car out of all the parts I was finding. So then on I just started looking before cutting and sort of come home with a good collection of bits and pieces.
The bits and pieces don't gather much dust. In the last few years, David has bolted together Ballarat and Semi-Rat, both vehicles gaining widespread attention and both taking out top car at the beach hop.
Basically, I just like to use the parts that I've got and try and fit them to a car. I'm sort of from that old school where the way you used to draw a hot rod is the way you build one now. But I just like building stuff I like, just the style and shape.
Semi-Rat is the latest to leave the workshop and made its debut locally at Muscle Car Madness before making the journey north to the beach hop. The truck started life as a 28 Essex, keeping its suicide doors, but its revisions extend to a Chev Suburban chassis which hosts Jag independent suspension and a 454 big block.
I like rat rods because there's no boundaries. If you're saying it's a hot rod, it's got to have the certain tail lights, certain lights, that sort of stuff, where a rat rod, it's what you want to build. So there's no limits. To stay traditional is a lot of money. You're paying top dollar for those components. You can buy stuff that looks similar, but it's not the right stuff, or you get frowned at. So that's why I like rat rods. There's no rules. They can't say I've got the wrong tail lights, because what tail lights were I supposed to have?
Undeniably, rat rods are out to make a statement, but David stops at calling his creations art.
I suppose it would be, but I'm not looking at it as art. I'm just looking at it as what parts you can put on a car to make them function. And if they work as art, then great. If they don't, then, yeah, some people don't like them, and that's fine. Personally, I don't like, different shiny cars because they start to look a bit the same after a while. I like something standing out. You walk into a car park, you know which car's yours, that sort of thing.
Given the variety in donor material, the concepts do evolve during the build process, and sometimes changes are made for completely external factors, such as the added cost of an oversized trailer on a Cook Street ferry crossing.
Well, the trailer was going to be another couple of metres longer, and it actually started off a couple of metres longer. It took us about 4 days to build that, until I went in about 1:32 in the morning to have a coffee, and I thought, I'll Google Blue Bridge, just curious. I've knocked 2 metres off it.
And with little doubt that David's style makes an impact, all he hopes is to stir up the grey matter a bit.
I hope they sort of put it in their own mind and think, well, they could actually build something that they've always had in mind. There's no limits for these sort of things, so there's only the government limits, but they're there for safety as well. But no, just hopefully get people motivated, and the more the better. The expressions on people's faces is brilliant. A smile is worth it. So a lot of people smile, so that's worth it.
Right, time now to meet this week's Mount Shop feature car. Raj Patel's blown big block XW Falcon, another tough machine from the Wanganui Road Rodders Club.
From a real young age, my dad owned a 71 XY Falcon. It was just a Falcon 500 with a 4.1 in it. My first memories of Dad having our family car, and basically growing up, Dad used to tinker with them in the weekends, changing spark plugs, oils and whatnot, and used to get out there and give them a hand, get my hands dirty. Basically, I took fancy to the shape, the XW, XY shape, and just always wanted them, always loved them, always had a passion for them. Speaking to him now, he still scratches his head and thinks, what have I done? But he's always glad to see that the traditions continued in the family. Secretly, I think he's quite proud.
Raj's XW obsession kicked off with a different Falcon. However, he was relieved of it by some lowlifes who thought that they needed it more. Armed with an insurance payout, Raj went in search of version 2.
I found two cars and to choose from. One was a New Plymouth, one was a factory XW Fairmont. It had custom interior and it was red. And then there was this particular one here, which was local in Wanganui. And it took my fancy because it had a 351 Cleveland, 4-speed top loader and a slippery 9-inch in it. And I purchased it in 1996 and I paid $5,200 for it, which I thought at the time was quite a bargain. After a couple of years of fanging that about, I developed a misfire, and it turns out it was only a camshaft problem, but instead of changing the camshaft, I thought, hey, bigger cubes, so let's go 429. So repowered it with a 429 C6 and 9-inch. That was going pretty awesome. And being in the Wanganui Road Rodders, we're pretty high on blowers, so every Tom, Dick and Harry in the club seemed to have a blower, so hey, I wanted what the Joneses had. So this opportunity came about with the 545, which needed to be built up, but everything was there for a blower, and it's always a bit dearer going on blower on a Ford. So when the opportunity came about that it was all available, ready to go, I snapped it up, sold the old 429, and never looked back.
The Go department is headed up by a cast iron 2-bolt 460. The addition of a scat rotating assembly pushes displacement out to 545 cubes. The big block is topped with Cobrajet aluminium heads with a Hampton 671 blower force-feeding twin 950 CFM carbs. Power makes its way to the tarmac courtesy of a Chuckman-built C6 Trans and a Fab 9 Chassis Works diff. The rear end was purchased out of the States and is more at home under a Mustang. However, in this case, it enables the Convo Pros to sneak inside the Falcon's guards.
Ooh, what sort of horsepower? That's a tricky one. I would like to say 500 plus at the flywheel, more around the 600 mark to be, but until it's dynoed, I don't want to run my mouth off as to what it is, so we'll just see.
The latest incarnation of the XW hasn't been thrown down a prepped drag strip just yet, although the old combo proved itself good for 11s. But while making the most of days like Wanganui Road Rodders' own event, the Wanganui Street Drags, is all part of the fun, Raj was always keen on a car that was just as at home on the street.
It's always got to be a street car. It's got to be something that I can use. It's got to be something that I can drive on the street. It's got to be something that doesn't overheat every 5 minutes. It drives quite nice on the open road. It's a bit hungry on the gas, but that's par for the course. Well, I'm quite proud of it. It's most of the work's been done here in this garage. You know, there's obviously the odd time that it's had to go out and get work done. Like, for example, the short block was built in Palmerston North, but the rest of it was done here in the garage. And yeah, I seek advice from a few different people just along the way, and yeah, got it together and got it running.
And with this, the latest version of Raj's XW Obsession, does that mean the car's finished? Of course it is.
Yeah, my wife would probably like me to say now that this is it, this is how the car's going to stay, and I'll say that for the time being.
Want to see more cars in action like this? Jump onto themotorhood.com now and sign up for our totally free digital magazine. It's packed with the best bits from New Zealand Performance Car, NZV8 and New Zealand Classic Car magazines. Simply enter your email address and you'll get it direct to your inbox. Easy. That's us for this episode of NAC Car Culture. Thanks for tuning in. Coming up in next week's show, we're Wairarapa Upper bound for the 2nd annual Cruise Martinborough. We meet Omar and his ultra-clean Mark II Golf.
The 80s appeal, the boxy lines, simplicity.
And hot rodding brand new Mustangs at CTB Performance. See you then. NAC Car Culture was proudly brought to you by NAC Insurance, specialists in modified and high-performance cars, Mount Shop, undercar specialists, and Teng Tools. Get organised.